Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Sisters of the Strange. I'm Shae.
I'm Landrey. And since we're recording in the same day, both of our guest stars are still here. And I guess this episode goes out first, huh?
Yeah, technically.
Well, okay. I brought my dogs. I have a Biggie on my left, which would be, I guess, your right. And little dog is on my right, which would be their left. I don't know.
Yeah, sure. They're all cuddled up. They're being good now. They were running around like crazy during my episode.
Yeah, I went down and got my blanket because I figure this is the blanket we sit with on the couch at home. So I figured this is like the real end point.
Yeah, little dog's falling asleep.
She's like, yeah, when I think they also.
This is nice.
Biggie might wore herself out finally.
Maybe. Don't speak too soon.
Yeah. But anyways, brought my dogs. I thought that they would just sleep and be like really good the whole time. And during Shae's episode, little dog was pretty okay. Biggie was absolutely everywhere. Like at one point we heard her jump on the coffee table in the other room and this wall behind us started shaking. So it is what it is.
You'll see that in the next episode.
Yeah. Stay tuned for what, Friday?
Friday.
Stay tuned for Friday to get a preview of that.
Yeah. Up, down, all around.
Yeah, that was crazy. My bad.
It's okay.
It was kind of distracting.
I love them. They're so cute.
There's something.
Yeah,
I don't know. I was like, I'm going to bring them. I need to like finally bring them onto the show. Like,
yeah.
We're like 70 something episodes. Do you realize we're like 70 something? Yeah, by the way, that's crazy.
Crazy.
But I was like, I want to bring them. And then I was like, no. And I was like, yeah. And I was like, all right, they're coming. Let's go.
We are.
So here we are. Anyways, this week I am just doing a bunch of ghost stories from haunted houses to just everything.
Okay. Yay.
Like
Perfect.
They're literally everywhere. It's all spectrums of just ghost stories. So
we love it.
I'm a little excited about it. I was reading them and I was like, ooh, these are kind of spooky, but also just good.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay. I love it.
I don't know how many I have. I just like wrote a lot and I figured if we ran out of time, then use them a different day.
Yeah, for sure.
So let's just get on into it.
Let's go.
A few years back, a friend of mine decided to turn an old house into a seasonal haunted attraction. The place itself was already unsettling. It was over a century old, creaky, and full of history. So we leaned into that for the event. While setting up, we learned a disturbing piece of the home's past. The last person to live there had been an elderly woman who had passed away alone in one of the back rooms. She still had old mail that would be delivered, so that's how we learned what her name was. We joked about it at first, how fitting that our haunted house might actually be haunted. Occasionally, small odd things would happen. Sounds you couldn't quite explain, stuff that made you pause but then would shrug off. Nothing serious, at least, not until one night. For reference, because of the equipment we kept inside and popularity of a haunted house, a few of us would stay overnight to keep an eye on things. The back of the house had 2 rooms with closets that shared a wall. For the attraction, we'd cut an opening between the closets so actors could move from room to room more easily. Across the hall was another bedroom where the main organizer would sleep. 2 of us laid our sleeping bags out in the hallway that night. This house had no air conditioning, no vents, the windows were sealed shut, and every door was padlocked from the inside. We also had heavy plastic sheets hanging between rooms so guests couldn't see into the next space. Sometime during the night, I woke up. At first, I thought someone else had gotten up, but then I realized the sound was coming from the room where the woman had died. Slow footsteps, deliberate movement. Then I heard the plastic sheet rustle like someone was passing through the closet opening. My stomach dropped. I looked over at the guy sleeping beside me, out cold. I tried to convince myself it was nothing, maybe the house settling, until the footsteps stopped and then started again. The plastic moved once more. Now fully panicking, I tried to wake him up without making a noise. Hey, wake up. Please wake up. Eventually he stirred, and I whispered, listen. He froze. What is that? He asked. I don't know, I said, and I meant it. After a few seconds, we quietly made our way to the other bedroom and woke up the guy who was running the haunted house. The moment he sat up, the noise stopped. We searched every room, and there was nothing. Every lock was still secured from the inside, windows were sealed, no animals, no people, no airflow that could have moved those sheets. There was no logical explanation. That was it. Nothing else happened after that, but none of us ever forgot it. I've tried to rationalize it over the years, but no explanation fits quite right. And honestly, that experience is probably why I still love the paranormal today. I've gone on ghost hunts, chased stories, and listened to countless encounters, but that one will always be mine. Haunted houses are scary because of those. And then imagine being the person who's working in a haunted house and stays the night to like protect the home.
Yeah.
And then you just hear those rustling.
You're like, ooh, boy.
Very unsettling.
Yeah.
And the feet walking. If I heard feet walking in my house whenever I'm home alone with my dogs, I'm out the bedroom window. Jumping. I'm not walking towards it to get out of the room.
No. We're leaving immediately from where we're at. Yeah. Out the back. Opposite side of the house of where the noise is coming
Wherever
from.
I can go.
Yeah. No.
I've been freaking myself out because I've been sleeping in the guest bedroom. And so the projector plays, but then it kind of reflects off of the TV. And so in the corner of my eye, I'll see that movement. And the door is also right there. So the door is between the projector wall and that. And I constantly look over, and I still have my Christmas tree up so I can it's still lit up in there. And I'm like, I just saw something walk by. I'm like, but where's it going? There's because where it's at, it's there's nowhere for something to actually walk.
Yeah.
But I keep seeing stuff in the corner of my eye, but I know it's just the reflection off the TV. But whenever I look, I'm like,
initially you're like, oh God, yeah, that would probably scare me too, honestly.
And then I also have the fan plugged in there because I can't sleep without having some sort of noise like that, because it makes it to where I can't hear if there was footsteps or something like that. I can hear enough. If someone broke into my house, I'd be able to hear it.
Oh, well, yeah, but not soft little sounds
Small stuff that I wake up to.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I keep that. I have that fan in there, and the only place it can go is also right by the TV. And so as soon as I open that bedroom door, the fan is directly right there. For them to get out of there, they walk on the base of that fan. Oh. And the other day I opened that door and I put blackout curtains in there too. So that room's pitch black. And so I opened that door and that fan was right there, and I scared the heck out of myself. Put that there? Yeah, I was like, oh my God. And so then now today when I left, I just left that bedroom light on and closed the door.
Amazing.
Because I'm not going to open that door to the dark again.
Smart idea.
Yeah, I don't handle it well. I don't like opening any room to the dark.
Constant state of fear.
Well, how do you, I can't look into the dark like that. I do not like looking into a dark room. I do it all the
time.
No, absolutely not. I don't. My whole house, I still have up all my Christmas. I have my Christmas tree in the kitchen.
Oh,
still,
yeah, me
one
too.
In the living room. My garlands are all still plugged in. I'm like, I will not be.
We're not going back to the dark.
No. And that's where I'm like, do I just keep these up year round?
How do I make this year round?
I've been considering what can I put back in here? Because Aaron doesn't like the lamps because they're too much light. So I am considering what do I do to
just
to keep the vibe of cozy.
Cozy.
Anyways, on to the next one. I moved into this house when I was really young, around 7 years old, sometime in the early 1980s. We lived there for several years, and during that time, strange things became a normal part of life that we almost stopped questioning them. The house itself was impressive. It had been built decades earlier, and at one time sat in what was considered a very prestigious neighborhood. The homes weren't packed tightly together, and there was plenty of space between the neighbors. One of the first things we encountered involved the doorbell. Each entrance had its own chime, but the front doors was especially ornate and loud. There were nights, usually after dark, when the bell would suddenly start ringing nonstop. No one would be outside, and no one would have reached it unseen, considering the distance between homes and how our yard was laid out. Sometimes the button would actually appear to be stuck, as if someone had pressed it hard and held it there. The only way to stop the sound was to physically disconnect the wiring. That alone was unsettling, but it wasn't the only thing. The staircase was another problem. It sat right beside the front entrance and led to the bedrooms. Being an older home, the steps creaked loudly when anyone climbed them. But often, after walking up several steps, you could feel movement behind you, like the vibration of footsteps following just a second too late. You'd hear the sound, sense the presence, and feel certain that if you turned around, someone would be right there. I was still a kid, and instead of fear, it made me angry. I'd whip around and swat at the empty space as if telling it to knock it off. Sometimes the feeling would fade, sometimes it wouldn't, but at least I felt like I had done something. Then there was the formal living room. The room was practically off limits. It was filled with expensive furniture and antiques and only used really for holidays. Sitting in there was almost forbidden. A couch sat against the wall beneath an old portrait of a long-dead relative, a military man from generations past. Every single night, a shadow would appear on that couch. It wasn't random. It always formed in the same place, shaped like a seated person.
Ew.
Over time, the cushion itself began to dip inward, a smooth, worn indentation, as though someone had been sitting there night after night, watching television. It stayed that way for years. Another experience happened in my bedroom. I was a very light sleeper. One night, with the door open and my nightlight on, I felt the mattress sink slightly, the way it does when a parent sits on the edge of your bed to check on you. Half asleep, I spoke out loud thinking it was my mother. No one answered. When I rolled over, no one was there, but the comforter was pressed down, clearly marked where someone had been sitting. I sat upright and watched the stairwell, convinced I'd see her walk away. I waited and waited. She never reappeared. The moment that truly shook everyone, though, involved two sisters who worked as caretakers while my parents were away. One afternoon, we came home to find them standing outside, refusing to go back inside the house. They told us they'd been in the kitchen when they heard the front door open, footsteps climb the stairs, then came the sound of running across the upstairs hallway. Doors slammed, one after another. They called out thinking it was us kids, and none of us answered. That's when they realized the time. It was far too early for us to even be home from school. They never worked alone in that house again. Later, I learned the rumors about the family who had lived there before us. There were stories of an angry, troubled mother. Looking back, I still wonder if she was who visited me that night, since it did feel maternal. I heard another unsettling rumor that the man who originally built the house may have taken his own life there before construction ever finished, but I can't confirm that. What I do know is that the house never seems to keep owners for very long. Every few years, about every 5 to 7 years, it goes up for sale again, always at an unusually low price, and it's always hard to not wonder why. The doorbell one is what freaks me out the most, because they basically said, like, we can't get ding-dong ditchers because of there's nowhere for them to hide.
Yeah.
And the only way it would stop is to physically, like, go under the wiring.
Yeah.
And something
I don't like that. That whole story reminded me of the Peaster house.
Yeah.
Ugh.
I don't like the idea of, like, and you know, it falls into the same concept of I don't like walking into dark rooms and opening doors to the dark. It's the same thing. Opening your door to the darkness at nighttime.
You don't know what's out there.
You just can't see any of it. And that's why, like, I keep my porch light on all the time so I can hopefully see, like, if there is something that appears on my front porch or happens.
Yeah.
But I still don't want to open my door to the dark.
No.
At night.
Eek.
Yeah.
Gyoey.
Not a fan.
Gyoey.
It kind of reminded me of living in, like, the old house that I lived in town. And just, like, the layout and everything. Like, how they talked about the den. They said the den was, like, because there was more details. I just kind of narrowed it down and put it into more succinct font, writing, whatever. But it said, like, to the left is where the den was. And I can just imagine, like, walking down the stairs at night and seeing a shadow of a man sitting on the same spot every single night. But that's also what happened in one of the Conjuring movies, I think. The, like, Einfield poltergeist one. He, like, sat in his recliner constantly.
Yeah.
So the idea of seeing someone, like, sitting on your couch all the time.
And leaving an indentation.
Yeah.
Ugh.
To the point where, like, you can literally see it on the furniture. And this person had said in their main story, before I, like, condensed it down, they had said that they had that couch for, like, 7 years or many, many years. And they had sat on that couch for, like, 14 times in their life. Like, they weren't allowed to sit on that furniture because it was, like, antique furniture. And so that's where they're like, we were allowed to be in there for holidays like Christmas. Yeah. But outside of that, we were never in there.
Yeah. To, like, hang out and sit.
Yeah. To leave marks like that.
Yeah.
This is another one. I've spent most of my life trying to understand a series of terrifying experiences involving my mother. Experiences that to this day I can't fully explain. The first incident happened when I was very young, around 5 years old. I don't remember much, only that my parents were arguing intensely. The next day, I noticed deep scratches across my father's face, arms, and chest. Not long after that, my parents divorced. At the time, I didn't understand what I had witnessed, only that something felt very wrong. Years later, when I was a teenager, my mother was living with someone new. One night, I woke up to shouting and went toward their bedroom, thinking she might be in danger. When I got there, I saw the man holding her arms, trying to restrain her. I immediately assumed he was hurting her and rushed forward. That's when I heard her speak. The voice that came out of her didn't sound anything like my mother.
No.
It was harsh, deep, and guttural, almost growling. And it was threatening him. It said he didn't belong with her, that she was going to kill him if he didn't leave. I froze. The man looked at me, terrified, and asked for my help. I started toward him, but my mother turned her head toward me and spoke again, this time calmly, but still not in her voice. She told me this wasn't about me, and that she wouldn't hurt me, and that I should stay out of it. She lashed out at him, biting, kicking, and screaming, and each time I tried to intervene, she repeated the same thing. This isn't for you. Then, suddenly, she collapsed into sleep. Moments later, she woke up completely confused and asked why I was standing there. When I told her what happened, she insisted she remembered nothing and told me to go back to bed. That relationship ended shortly afterward. A few years later, when I was 17, my mother remarried, and it happened again. I was called into their room by my name, and when I arrived, she was attacking her husband. I grabbed her arms to pull her away. She looked directly at me and spoke in that same unfamiliar voice. She told me she remembered me, that she knew my mother loved me, and because of that, she would not hurt me. But the man, she wanted him gone. She claimed he wasn't good for her and that my mother belonged to her. I began praying aloud, desperately, and once again, my mother suddenly fell asleep. When she woke up, she had no memory of the incident and no understanding of why I was there. The next day, I begged her to seek help, a priest or anyone, but she refused. And after that, I never witnessed another episode myself, though I later learned that many of them happened when I wasn't present anymore. Over the years, doctors suggested it could have been psychological, trauma, disassociation, or unresolved issues tied to relationships. Maybe that's true. I don't know, but I do know what I saw, what I heard, and how real it felt. Those experiences pushed me towards faith, and I eventually became Catholic. Whether it was possession or something else entirely, I can't say for certain. But I know one thing for sure. I never want to witness something like that again.
Ugh. That's horrifying.
Can you imagine your mom looking at you and not using her voice?
No.
And telling you, like, I won't hurt you, but this guy's got to go.
Yeah, but go away. Like, what?
And it's like it was something like possessing her, but didn't mind her being a mom, but it didn't want her to have any other men, like in her life.
Ew. Yeah, that's gross.
Yeah. And it would be terrifying to see someone holding your mom down and then realizing like they were just trying to protect themselves.
Yeah.
That's horrifying. My parents bought the house in the mid-1960s. It was a 3-family building in Jersey City, and we were told it dated back to the Civil War era. According to local history and a lot of neighborhood rumor, parts of the house had once been used to hide people escaping slavery along the Underground Railroad. During later renovations, we actually discovered a hidden area that could have served that exact purpose. From the beginning, the house never felt normal. When I was 17, I turned the cellar into my bedroom. It became a hangout spot for friends, and I separated it from the rest of the basement with a heavy curtain. One night, while cleaning up late, I heard someone whisper from the other side of that curtain. I assumed it was a friend messing with me, but the house was quiet, and no one else was really supposed to be there. I paused to listen. That's when I heard a soft laugh right next to my ear. It wasn't loud, but it was unmistakable, low, intentional. The kind of sound that makes your blood run cold. I sprinted up the stairs so fast that I actually ripped the banister loose as I grabbed it. That was only the beginning of what would happen in that house. One of the decorations I had down there was an old telephone from a bar, probably from the 1930s. It wasn't a normal phone. It was the kind bartenders used to signal staff in other rooms. It wasn't connected to anything. No wires, no power. Honestly, I don't think it ever had worked. Shortly after that, I joined the Navy and was gone for long stretches of time. In 1969, while I was stationed out in the Atlantic, my mother went down to the cellar one afternoon to relax and listen to the radio. While she was sitting there alone, the phone rang. The disconnected phone that was on the wall. At first, she assumed I had triggered it somehow as a joke. I was an electrician after all. But then it hit her. I was nowhere near home. There were no wires and no battery. She picked up the receiver, terrified it might be me calling with bad news, some sort of weird final goodbye. There was nothing on the other end, though. When I came home, she told me about it, and I took the phone off the wall and showed her. There was absolutely no way it could have rung. But the cellar wasn't the only place things happened. At one point, a couple lived in the second-floor apartment, and one night, the woman came downstairs furious and told my mother that my father was upstairs on the 3rd floor, doing construction, sawing, hammering, walking back and forth, and it was all at 1 a.m. My mother told her that was impossible because my father was at work, but the woman insisted. She asked my mother to come upstairs and listen. They both could hear it clearly, hammering, sawing, footsteps. My mother called the police, convinced that someone had broken in. When the officers arrived, one went around the back to the fire escape, while the other took the keys and headed upstairs. The moment he stepped into the 3rd floor hallway, the sound stopped. He searched the apartment with his weapon drawn, lights on, and checked every room. No one was there, and no one went down the fire escape either. The officers shrugged it off and left, and the house went quiet for the rest of the night. Eventually, we did sell the place, and my mother made me promise that I would never tell the new owners anything about what happened there. They were kind people, and she didn't want to scare them. Years later, they invited me and my nephew back for a visit. I casually asked if they had ever experienced anything unusual. They laughed and said, "Oh, you mean the man?" They had seen many of the things we had, despite never hearing a single story from us. And at one point after the sale, a woman who claimed to be a medium visited the house with us. She didn't know anything about its history. As we approached the building, she stopped and said she could already feel something was there. Inside, she walked the halls and suddenly froze at the staircase. She refused to go up to the 3rd floor, saying whatever was up there was dark. Then she entered a 2nd floor bathroom and became visibly shaken. She said she sensed someone dying there, lying on the floor in pain. That may have been the source of it all. Or maybe the house simply never let go of its original past. I think the Underground Railroad would be very, very interesting to have as like part of your home.
Oh, yeah.
And turning your room into the area where that most likely all occurred is very brave.
Very.
It reminds me of The Haunting of Connecticut when the boy takes his room down into the basement. And it was originally the morgue of the home or the funeral home and all of that.
Yeah.
And he always had so
goes down from there.
Yeah. The basements are so terrifying. Like I'm
glad we don't have basements.
There's some houses around here that do, but not near as popular as up north.
And they're probably all really old around here.
Yeah, there was one house I was looking at in Mineral Wells, and it had an unfinished basement, and I saw one picture of it, and I said, not even going to look at that house. We are finished. Like, absolutely not.
No, thank you.
We'll not be further investigating this home. That is one of my biggest fears about trying to buy a home right now is...
it being haunted?
Yes. Because I'm so comfortable and, like, content in the home I'm in, but every other house I've lived in, I've always felt something.
Yeah.
But I don't feel like that in the house I'm in now. And I'm like I'm asking for it. And that's what Aaron's like, let's go look at this house. I'm like, no.
It looks scary.
But the other problem is I don't like new cookie cutter homes.
Yeah.
That's not what I want. I want the old.
Yeah. Eclectic.
And it's definitely going to have some weird stuff going on.
Yeah.
So I'm like asking for it, even though I'm not.
Yeah.
Okay. Next story. This happened the summer I graduated high school. We live far out in the countryside in rural Oklahoma. The kind of place where nighttime noises were unusual. Owls, wind through the trees, coyotes in the distance, all of that was part of life, and we weren't easily spooked by any of it. My bedroom sat on the corner of the house, and that summer, something strange began happening. Late one night, I turned off my light and settled in for bed. Almost immediately, I heard knocking on my window. Not random tapping, deliberate knocking. 3 knocks in a row, then a pause, and then 3 more. It repeated again. I told myself it was nothing. Maybe branches, maybe my imagination. I was reading a lot of spooky stuff back then, and I convinced myself my mind was filling in the gaps. A few nights later, it happened again. This time, I got up and looked outside. There was nothing there, and no movement, no animals, just nothing. By the 3rd time, it stopped feeling coincidental. That summer, my sister and I were in the middle of switching bedrooms. I was about to leave for college, and she would be moving into that corner room. I hadn't told anyone about the knocking, not even her. One night, while we were both in bed, talking, she suddenly asked, "Did you just knock on the wall?" When I said no, she went quiet and said, "Then something's knocking on my window." And that's when I finally told her everything. We were both scared enough to wake our dad, and he did what any practical rural dad would do, told us to turn on the security light and look outside. We didn't see anything, so he told us to go back to bed. But that wasn't the end. The final night changed more than everything. My oldest sister was home from grad school, the logical one, the scientist, the one who laughed at the story and teased us relentlessly. That night, she and I were sharing a room when she suddenly sat straight up in bed and said, "I hear knocking." This time, it wasn't just one window. The sound moved across the front of the house, the kitchen window, the dining room, the bedroom windows, one after another. Always 3 knocks, always deliberate, and always repeating. It wasn't subtle anymore. Whatever it was wanted to be heard. The entire house woke up. Even my dad looked unsettled. And when he got serious, we knew this wasn't nothing. He handed each of us girls a gun and stationed us at different doors. He told us not to let anything in unless it was him. That alone was terrifying. The moment he opened the front door, the knocking stopped. The night went dead silent. Dad searched everywhere. The yard, the roof, the road, the fields. He found nothing. No tracks, no disturbed ground. The dogs hadn't barked, and the chickens never made a sound. There was simply nothing. That was the night he realized we hadn't imagined it. Nothing ever knocked again after that, though. Over the years, I've tried to make sense of it. Later, I read one of Whitley Strieber's books, Communion, and was chilled to read about similar knocking patterns tied to strange encounters in rural homes. I don't remember any missing time, and no one else in my family does either. But we did experience other odd things. Unexplained footsteps, strange glowing lights in the field at night, and we lived near old, unmarked graves in a Native American burial area.
Oh.
My dad had also built the house himself using reclaimed bricks from a demolished schoolhouse. So maybe it was coincidence, maybe it was residual energy, Maybe it was something else entirely. All I know is that one summer, something knocked on our windows, carefully, methodically, and then vanished forever. And to this day, none of us can explain what it was.
Ghosties.
Yeah.
Just some ghosties.
Sounds a little pooky.
Yeah. What else would it be?
There was something in
Very
that.
poltergeisty.
Oh, that's what it was. So how it starts in the window and they're sleeping together, the sisters and stuff. It totally reminded me of one time when we were sleeping in the guest bedroom at the Peaster house.
Yes.
And we heard scratching and we both, like, I think we woke up.
Mm-hmm.
Like we had or should have been asleep already. I feel like I could be wrong. But we would sleep with that guest bathroom light on. And I remember hearing like a scratching and like slowly looking to see if you were awake and you were already kind of looking at me. And I still don't think we said a single thing.
Mm-mm. We just acknowledged it and ignored it.
Yeah. And then we were like, okay. But I feel like that was the same night we heard footsteps on the stairs.
Gosh, I don't know. I feel like I heard that a lot. So
yeah, I feel like that it was the same night though. I feel like for me at least, it was the same night that I heard footsteps on the stairs. And
probably did.
The thing about that house is like, it was only us three in there. It was me and Shae and our dad. And he was in his room. No one was upstairs at that point. No. We were terrified of the upstairs.
Yeah, we didn't even go up there.
We had our own rooms upstairs and chose to sleep in the guest bedroom downstairs together.
Yeah.
Because we hated the upstairs so much. And the only other thing in that house that could have gone up the stairs was Ellie Mae, and she was an English Mastiff. So like you can tell if it's a dog going upstairs versus like a human. And the stairs were like polished wood stairs with those weird metal railings, which if you've listened to us at all, you've heard plenty about those stairs. But like it wasn't like stairs that had carpet.
No.
You know, like
it's a very distinct sound.
You hear each individual step.
Yeah.
And I feel like that was the same night that like we heard the scratching on the window. Mm-hmm. And I don't even know if it was the window or the corner of the room.
I think it was the corner of the room.
I just know it was on my side of the bed.
Yeah, I don't think it was the window. I think I remember it being the corner, like the top corner of the room.
I just know it was like us together, but I was like hoping it was the window because the headboard was the window.
Next to the window, yeah.
But I know that it was like on my side of the bed and it was in that general over here. And and you were awake. I was like, what? But I don't think we said a single thing. I think we looked at each other and just like, we were like, ooh, okay.
Scary.
Yeah, that was
just one more thing to add to the list.
Yeah. We had someone comment that, did you see that? They said that they grew up on 920 also. But
oh, yes, I did see that.
Cedar Creek or whatever.
Yeah, I did see that.
And I was like, we were very close. Ooh, and that was the worst house
ever.
Yeah, ever. And you know, I still never see people like that house is always for sale as well. Constantly for sale. I'd be curious to know about other people who've lived in it.
Yeah.
If they had stories, like, especially because I think the people who lived there before us were like a teenage girl and a teenage boy. Because you took the teenage girl's room. Because I remember when we went and like looked at the house and the room had like cheerleader stuff in it.
Yeah, I think I vaguely remember that too.
And I feel like it was the teenage boy had my room.
Yeah.
So I'd be curious to know if I wish. If you ever lived in this house.
Have you lived in this house?
Okay. The next one is, for a short time, I lived in Baltimore with my boyfriend. We were renting an apartment and through the windows, what? We were renting. There has nothing in this has windows written anywhere in it.
Hello?
I don't know why I read windows. We were renting an apartment and through the neighbors, I ended up meeting a woman who noticed pretty quickly that I was interested in paranormal stuff. One day she mentioned something nearby called a witch's tree and asked if I wanted to see it. Of course I did.
Yes.
The following Sunday, my boyfriend, this woman, and I drove out to the local park. Later, I learned it was called Patterson Park. When we reached it, the tree was massive, easily 5 feet across, and covered in carved symbols. They weren't random markings. They were deliberate, old-looking runes etched into what was supposed to be the trunk of the tree. There was even a small sign posted at the base. A short distance away, hanging from another tree, was a noose. At the time, we didn't take any of it very seriously. I brought my camera and took photos. My boyfriend joked around, even swinging on the noose like an idiot.
Oh my God. No.
Don't do that.
Ay.
We didn't vandalize anything, but we definitely didn't treat the place with much respect either. Later, I learned that witches' trees are said to be surrounded by a 9-foot boundary, and that once you step inside it, the coven connected to the tree becomes aware of you. Looking back, that part chills me. After developing these photos, I compared the symbols carved into the tree with runes shown in some old witchcraft books that I owned. To my surprise, they matched. I was even able to translate part of the carving. It read something along the lines of, "Blessed be these woods, for within them lie the doors to other lands." Near the bottom of the trunk was a symbol identifying the coven, one made of a single woman with children. The strange part is what happened after we visited, though. The very next day, I ran out of gas on the Beltway. The day after that, another driver turned left directly into my car and smashed the side of it. It was still drivable, but it was new to me and now badly damaged. By midweek, things had escalated. I was working at a bar when a man demanded a free drink, claiming his wife had just had a baby. When I refused without manager approval, he harassed me the rest of the night. When my shift ended, I went outside to find my car completely vandalized. My mirrors were broken, my plates were bent, windows damaged, and there were footprints all over the roof of my car. That car was my lifeline. I was hundreds of miles away from home, living in a city where I barely knew anyone. The hits kept coming. Thursday, I was told I was being let go from my job. Friday, my boyfriend lost his job. And Saturday night, after my final shift, things turned dark. My boyfriend had been drinking, but something about him felt off. He was angry and not himself. An argument turned physical, and I left, driving around for hours before returning in the morning. When I refused to get into the car with him to drive back to Michigan, he snapped, throwing my belongings down the stairs and out of the apartment. Exactly 1 week after visiting the tree, I had no job, no relationship, no home, and a destroyed car, stranded more than 600 miles away from my support system. And that's when someone pointed something out to me. In certain forms of witchcraft, photographs can be used as a conduit, especially images of sacred objects. I realized I still had the photos of the tree. Worse, anyone I showed them to seemed to have a sudden run of bad luck as well. My mother-in-law, who was sensitive to these kinds of things, told me I needed to get rid of them immediately. We sprayed the photos with holy water, and then we burned them. After that, the string of disasters finally stopped. To this day, I don't know if what followed was a curse, coincidence, or something else entirely, but I've always felt the message was pretty clear. You were seen, you should have known better, and you should have been more respectful.
Yay.
That's terrifying.
That's horrible.
It leads me to my point of every time after we do an episode and I I have to Google the pictures and they end up on my computer, like the Richard Ramirez ones, I went and deleted those immediately. I was like, he is such a creepy guy. I do not want his stuff anywhere on my computer. Aaron was in there. I was like, this guy scares me so bad. And I deleted it in front of him. And he was like, okay. I was like, I just don't even want these on my computer or my phone. Cause then I do it on my computer and then I post through my phone. Yeah. And I was like, I don't want these anywhere. Go. And I deleted all of them. Ugh. And some was like the Robert the Doll, taking a picture. Yeah. And not asking permission. And then just all the bad luck that comes with it.
It's definitely,
Note to self, don't take pictures of anything.
Of sacred anything.
Of anything. You're going to love this one.
Oh, yay. I can't wait.
It's going to be so fun for you. I've worked as an emergency responder for several years. Mostly in rural parts of Kentucky. I split my time between 2 different ambulance services, and I've had strange experiences at both, but one station in particular stands out the most. At that service, we occasionally help transport bodies to local funeral homes after deaths. It wasn't technically part of our job, more of a courtesy, but looking back, it seemed like once we started doing that regularly, things around the station started to change. People began noticing things. Coworkers talked about seeing shadows moving through the building, doors opening and closing on their own, and more than one person reported seeing a young woman around the station. None of us knew who she was at first, but the name Brandy eventually stuck. Not because we confirmed it, but because it just surfaced. One night, I was working a shift where we only had 2 ambulances running and 4 people total in the building. The station itself wasn't very big, a truck bay, kitchen, common area, and a few small bedrooms. The walls were thin enough that you could hear everything. If someone got up, opened a door, or walked down the hall, you'd know. I'm a night owl, so I went to bed after everyone else. About 10 minutes after I turned off the light, I heard a sound from the middle of the room. A quiet, unmistakable sigh. It sounded like a woman letting out a breath. Ew. I turned on the light, and no one was there. I shut it off again. A moment later, I heard the sigh a second time. That's when something else happened. Out in the bay, I heard an object hit the concrete floor and start bouncing, skipping across the space like a rock being tossed. From the sound alone, it traveled a long distance, stopped, and then started skipping back the other way. At that point, I assumed someone had broken in. I got up and headed toward the bay, and another employee who had heard it too joined me. The doors were locked, the bay doors were shut, and no one else was inside, but something had moved. We had a damaged ambulance that had been taken out of service a few weeks earlier. Some loose equipment from it, including a hard hat, had been stacked on a stretcher and pushed into the corner of the bay to keep it out of the way. The hard hat was no longer there. It was sitting across the bay, several dozen feet away, lying flat, exactly matching the path of the sound we'd heard. Nothing like that had ever happened before, and things didn't stop there. Hearing footsteps in the bay late at night became common. You'd hear someone walking, steady, deliberate steps, but when you looked, no one was there. One winter night, a group of employees were sitting together talking about all of this. The temperature difference had fogged up the glass doors between the bay and the station. As they talked, there was a sudden knock on the glass. They all turned to look. Then slowly letters began to appear, traced through the fog, one stroke at a time. When it finished, the message had read, "Help me." That wasn't the end of it. There was more incidents, enough that no one who worked there doubted something was going on. And whatever it was, that station isn't empty when the lights go out.
Ooh. That's scary.
If I saw something writing in the fog, like
with nothing
dead ass
there
in front of my face, because you know when you get out of the shower and things and you see like messages you've written back and forth, like I'll go draw a little heart or whatever on the mirror for Aaron or whatever that may be. But seeing it physically being drawn out in front of your face.
Right. No. Yeah, it's scary, Biggie.
The dog whining when I'm reading scary stories is not helping me. It makes me anxious. This is what she does at home too. She'll just like look at my front door and start barking.
Whining.
And it's dark outside. I'm like,
Weena.
What's out there? There's nothing out there. Okay, this is the last one. This is one of those experiences that still gives me chills, especially as a parent. It's the kind of situation you never want to find yourself in. We were visiting my in-laws in Wisconsin. Whenever we stay there, our 6-year-old son sleeps in my mother-in-law's office. We set up an air mattress, he watches TV for a bit, and he's usually out cold. My wife and I slept in the other room next door, and my in-laws are just across the hall. That night, I woke up suddenly, which almost never happens to me. I didn't know why, but I felt uneasy. Something just felt off. I got out of bed and opened the door. The living room lights were on. I knew I had turned them off before going to sleep, though. Still half asleep, I walked out and shut them off again. Then without really thinking about it, I went to check on my son. His bed was empty. My heart dropped instantly. I tried to stay calm, telling myself he probably wandered into the living room or crawled onto the couch. I didn't want to panic anyone, so I searched the house quietly. He wasn't anywhere. And that's when the fear set in. There was a lake less than 50 feet from the house, and my mind went to places no parent ever wants to go. I woke up my wife and told her plainly, "Tony's gone. I don't know where he is." She immediately checked the doors. Everything was locked, except the screen door, which hadn't been secured. Her thoughts went straight to the lake, too.
Oh, boy.
I started calling his name loudly, and that's when my in-laws woke up. Just as they came into the hallway, we heard his voice. "I'm right here. I'm okay. I'm here." He had gone into their bedroom. Once everyone had calmed down, we gathered in the living room, and I asked him gently why he'd left his room. He said very matter-of-factly, "The people in the room made me nervous, so I came here where I felt safe." I asked him what he meant. I had assumed he was dreaming. He shook his head and said, "No, I was awake." Then he told us there was a man in his room wearing a red shirt, and that this man, he said, was the leader.
Oh.
The other people weren't inside the room, he said. They were outside, looking in through the window.
Oh, no, no, no.
The more questions I asked, the more unsettled I became. He said they didn't speak out loud and that they communicated with him without using words. And then he said something that stuck with me. They told me I was chosen.
Oh, no.
Now I know how this sounds, and I know kids can have vivid nightmares. But here's the thing. My son isn't prone to imagination or fantasy. He's incredibly grounded for his age. I'm an artist and take him to comic conventions all the time, and he's the kind of kid who will point at someone in a superhero costume and say, "That's just a person dressed up because it's fun." He doesn't blur reality and make believe. So while I fully accept that it could have been a dream, maybe even a night terror, the clarity with which he described it and how real it felt to him still makes me wonder. I don't know what he saw that night, but I do know that something frightened him enough to leave his room and seek safety somewhere else. And as a parent, that's a feeling I'll never forget.
Yeah, especially knowing that you have a kid that's like so like matter of fact.
Yeah.
Like, oh, that's a person in a costume.
Yeah. And then being told he's the chosen one.
Oh, there's a man in my room telling me I'm the chosen one. Yeah. And they're scary. So I left.
And there were other ones were looking in through the window and just not communicating with their mouths. Excuse me?
Absolutely not.
Excuse me. Sorry. She's like a literal baby. Having a weenie dog is comparable to having a newborn child. I almost guarantee it.
He's the best weenie.
They just have such big personalities. Like when I first got little, like I've had little dog for almost eight years or something like that. And the thought of getting another dog, I was like, no dog will ever compare to little dog. But they both have their aspects individually that I
very much so
cannot imagine not having either one of them now. But I hope those stories were kind of spooky. They were all individually different and strange.
We love a good ghost story. A good old-fashioned ghost story.
It just made sense for this week.
Yeah.
So let's get the new year started off with some good spooky tales. And if you have any of your own ghost stories you'd love to share, send them to sistersofthestrangepodcast@gmail.com. You should be able to find our email in literally all of our social media like bios. I have a link tree made to where you can go into our social media, click on the link tree, and it should like just have like an email icon, and you can click on it and it'll automatically like put you into your email with our email like imported into it. Towards a super easy process.
Super easy.
I've done my best to make it an easy, streamlined situation. But if you have any stories you'd like to share or recommendations for podcast episodes, you can send them there, or feel free to go to our Discord. It is also free and also in that link tree. We just like have a small community going on there. We were talking in it. I don't know if I talked in it today, but I was reading what y'all were saying. So just listening, hanging out, being involved. And it's a fun little community. We have someone who actually like just said they want to share some like other channels of other stuff. So ongoing.
Yeah. Other spooky stuff.
Yeah. Other things ongoing, growing. So if you feel like joining, feel free, and like, follow, subscribe, all the good things. And we will see you on most likely Friday, where you'll get to see. I feel like we started this episode with my dog's calm, and now Biggie's starting to do what she was doing in the last episode.
Yeah, so maybe we're
guiding you into the next episode.
Into the chaos of the next episode.
Yeah. But stick around because Shae covers a super interesting murder.
Yeah. Super interesting case.
Well, not murder.
Yeah, we can't really call it a murder. We don't know.
We'll see.
It's a good one, though.
Let us know.
Yeah.
But we'll see you Friday.
Okay, see you Friday.
Bye. Bye.